John. It's a response in part to Is It Phoenix. They don't have that many cards that can win the game at the end of the day. You have 4 copies of Arclight Phoenix and 4 copies of Thing in the Ice. Jund with plenty of removal to answer those cards. Now, you need a little bit of graveyard interaction to handle Arclight Phoenix over the long game. Allison is playing 2 copies of Nile Spellbomb in her main deck, Leyline of the Void in the sideboard. A tool that the Is It Phoenix deck has gotten out of Modern Horizon is Aria of Flame, and it's a way of winning that doesn't involve a creature or your graveyard, something that Is It Phoenix could have been able to use for a very long time. Not a lot of decks can interact with an enchantment in game number 1. Jund is an exception. You have copies of Assassin's Trophy. If you want to, you can play with cards like Maelstrom Pulse and Abrupt Decay as well. So the fact that you can effectively answer all of Is It Phoenix's threats, not a lot of decks in the format can say that, and I think it adds up to a positive matchup for Jund.
We're going to start things off here with a Blood Crypt untapped into an Inquisition of Kozilek. The hand here on the other side here for Taylor. I've got 2 Arclight Phoenixes, a Lightning Bolt, a Lava Dart, an Island, and a Steam Vents, which means a mulligan of the London variety did occur.
I was going to say this seems like an awfully soft keep it on 6 cards. I think this is acceptable. But Taylor with not a whole lot going on here. A couple Arclight Phoenixes and no real material to get into the graveyard or to cantrip through to more spells. And discard spell here is not going to help matters.
No cantrips, no Faithless Lootings just yet here for Taylor Pogue, so he'll just play his Steam Vents and enters the battlefield tapped, and we will head back over to Allison Warfield. Her draw step was a copy of a Wrenn and 6. A Nurturing Peatland into a Nile Spellbomb and a passing of the turn as we head back over to Taylor, who's drawn a Scalding Tarn. He's in search of cantrips or Faithless Lootings here, folks.
Spellbomb here, very good for Warfield. All Taylor hands really does is play towards an Arclight Phoenix, and now that's off the table as well.
Looks like it's going to be an Overgrown Tomb that's going to enter the battlefield untapped. Warfield has been playing a lot of Jund Online on Magic Online. And she's made some tweets about that, getting ready for this particular event, as now here is Liliana of the Veil. That will be plussed. Both players will be discarding a card here in just a moment. Wrenn and 6 will go to the graveyard for Warfield. For Pogue, it'll be a Arclight Phoenix, which is where that bird prefers to be. Pogue's going to sacrifice the Scalding Tarn. We may see a Steam Vents here in just a moment. Enter the battlefield tapped, and then we'll head back over to Taylor for his 3rd turn of the game. And there is the Vents.
Interested to see what's going on with Warfield's leftovers. She kind of has the choice that turn of Liliana of the Veil and try to get that online. It's going to be a little while before you get to cards of any note here because Taylor's going to be able to discard the Arclight Phoenixes, which is where they want to be. The alternative route was to play Wrenn and 6. Even without a fetch land, you could try to leverage the Horizon land there over the long term.
Yeah, the Nurturing Peatland.
Very slow way to do it. So Warfield trying to play for a little bit more immediacy here with the Liliana.
Well, there is Liliana. It's going to bite the dust from the Lava Dart and the Lightning Bolt. An Island here for Taylor. His graveyard is starting to get a little bit full, but no cantrips just yet, so he'll just pass the turn back over to Allie Warfield, who's drawn another copy of Liliana of the Veil.
And very good news there for Warfield that Taylor did not have a 3rd spell to follow up with that turn. That makes the 2nd Liliana of the Veil very likely to be able to get everything effectively out of hand before the Arclight Phoenixes can come back.
A Flame Slash will be the discard there for Taylor Pogue. That's a card that's starting to get popularized a little bit there by Jerry Thompson and his writing about Is It Phoenix. Finale of Promise in hand here for Taylor. Not a lot that can be done with that either because of the Spellbomb. And now here's a Timely Scavenging Ooze as a threat and also something that can also attack the graveyard.
Yep. And now a bunch of different dimensions here from Warfield, a lot of angles of attack, and it was just with nothing going on.
He's just going to concede the game right away, knowing that he is just much too far behind to be able to catch back up in this game. So Allie Warfield's going to win game number 1 here over Taylor Pogue. Jund very quickly up a game over Is It Phoenix. Haven't really ever seen a draw like that from Is It Phoenix before. We didn't see a single cantrip cast that game, Patrick.
No, that's very rare, but 6-card hand there. Was a Faithless Looting away from potentially being very good, but Taylor found no help, and Warfield's discard spells chewed up any opportunity for him to get some synergies together.
We'll be heading to the sideboards here in just a moment. Take a look at those and what these players are working with their 15. They're already very quickly going to the sideboard, as you can see both of these players. You have to imagine they've got a plan for each other because these are 2 pretty popular decks here in Modern.
Yeah, the Is It Phoenix deck needs to have a lot in the sideboard because I think their game one plan, the creatures are unlikely to be good, and it's really hard to cheat it with something like Pyromancer's Ascension or Aria of Flame because Jund has removal spells for enchantments as well.
We will start with Taylor Pogue. He is on your right. He's got a copy of Shenanigans and a Braid, 2 Anger of the Gods, 2 Blood Moon, 2 Spell Pierce, 2 Saheeli Sublime Artificer, 2 Narset Parter of Veils, and 3 copies of Ravenous Trap, getting ready for a little Hogak action, I'm sure.
Yeah, you got to stabilize the deck a little bit here. It can't be all in on a couple of threat cards. I think that plays too effectively into Jund's game plan. I think the Planeswalkers here, the Saheeli and the Narset, are both excellent. I also like the copies of Blood Moon in this matchup. It doesn't always KO Jund, but it can do a lot to shut off their utility lands, color scoop them a little bit, and can, in some spots, take a lot of strength out of run-in 6.
For Allison Warfield, it's a Collector Oof, an Obstinate Baloth, a Kolaghan's Command, 2 Anger of the Gods of Our Own, along with 2 Collective Brutality, 2 Surgical Extraction, 2 Plague Engineer. That one's going to be popular in sideboards this weekend. And then the most played card at Mythic Championship 4 in Barcelona, Leyline of the Void.
So I like Surgical Extraction a lot in this matchup. I don't know if you want to go so deep as to sideboard in Leyline of the Void, but certainly justifiable here. I'm not a huge fan of Anger of the Gods, Collective Brutality, Kolaghan's Command. They're not bad. They're justifiable, but it's not like Warfield's main deck has a lot of poor cards in it, so I think she can be a bit more judicious than that.
Well, and these are the options here for both players. Game number 2 is going to be underway here in just a moment, but we will very quickly talk about the StarCityGames.com weekly sale where you can save 33% off select Mythic Rares through Monday. That means the Mimeoplasm, Nicol Bolas, Dragon God, Ajani, Strength of the Pride, Karn Liberated, and a whole bunch more. Go to StarCityGames.com/sale for more information. This one's going to end at 10:59 on Monday East Coast time, and then we'll have another one up for you on Monday at 11 a.m. As Taylor Pogue and Allie have kept their 7 cards. Pogue is going to sacrifice a Scalding Tarn. He'll get a Steam Vents that's going to enter the battlefield on tap, falling down to 17 in the process, and heaven forbid we see a cantrip from our Is It Phoenix player. Not Magmatic Sinkhole. It will be a cantrip there in Serum Visions. Serum Visions will draw a Serum Visions. We'll do a little Scry 2 here action. And he's going to leave them both on top as we head back over to Allison Warfield. Perhaps we'll kick things off with a discard spell. Jund is, of course, known for doing that, so she will sacrifice a fetch land here very quickly.
Interested to see how mindful Warfield will be about playing around with potential Blood Moon in this game. Appears to be at least a little bit on the radar here as she fetches up a Swamp.
Yeah, basic Swamp here instead of an Overgrown Tomb or a Blood Crypt is somewhat notable there for Warfield. And now here comes the Thoughtseize. So we'll see Taylor's hand. He's got a thing in the ice, the Serum Visions, a Magmatic Sinkhole, Manamorpho, Scalding Tarn, and the aforementioned Blood Moon in the grip. So Warfield's going to write down the contents of the hand, and we'll see how she wants to poke a hole in this one.
Hard to really poke that much of a hole with the 2 cantrips in the backup, but we'll get some sense of the shape of her hand here based on the cards that she leaves. She may or may not care about Blood Moon. The same thing is true of the Sinkhole and Thing in the Ice, so we'll find out in a moment.
These are good things to know about, though. It's always good to know your opponent has a Blood Moon. Magmatic Sinkhole will take care of one of your creatures most likely. And Thing in the Ice is something that you're going to have to remove before it starts to take over the game. So Thing in the Ice is going to go to the graveyard from the discard spell. It's 17-all as we head over to Pogue for his second turn of the game. Thought Scour the draw step. Scalding Tarn is the land for the turn. That one doesn't come as much of a surprise. He will sacrifice that, it looks like. And Pogue's going to fall down to 16. Another Steam Vents is going to enter the battlefield on tap, so he's going to fall down to 14 after all is said and done. And what's the big follow-up? The big follow-up is the Thought Scour. He'll target himself. 2 cards headed to the graveyard. Spirebelf Canal is 1, Thought Scour is 2, and a new card is drawn. So that graveyard's looking pretty full. Magmatic Sinkhole, as you can see, with the Delve cost, is very easy to cast. Now here comes the Serum Visions. Mountain is the draw. Scry 2. We'll see what Taylor wants to do on this one. Remember, the last Scry 2, he kept both cards on top. This time, he'll do the same. We'll head back over to Allie Warfield. Liliana the Veil is the draw for the member of Team Nova. Libya Verdant Catacombs, and she will sacrifice that Catacombs, falling down to at least 16. And we'll see how much lower she wants to go. By searching up a basic early on in the game, now her mana is a little bit wonky. Does she want to get an Overgrown Tomb? Is it a Blood Crypt? Is it maybe potentially a Stomping Grounds?
Maybe.
Can't really get it all.
Well, you might be able to get a basic forest here.
That's also true.
And you do know about the Blood Moon, so from here you've kind of have that effectively managed. Your double black spells may get cut off in a long game, but you certainly can at least play Magic through a Blood Moon at this point.
Well, there is your basic forest. It's a beautiful one. And now we should be going towards some sort of threat here in this situation. It'll be Collective Brutality. And it's just going to be that sort of duress mode here. Blood Moon, Metamorphose, Magmatic Sinkhole, a Mountain, and a Flooded Strand is the hand. So Allie will update her notes. Things have changed a little bit since that Thoughtseize was cast last turn.
And this is shaping up to be kind of a repeat of the first game. And I think a common way the matchup plays is just it's hard for the Izzet Phoenix player to get very much traction. All of their payoff cards can be answered. And then they can kind of flood out in a long game.
Well, I do like the card that has been drawn this turn here for Taylor. It's a copy of Saheeli Sublime Artificer, and that's a unique way to go about doing it.
Yeah, you need something that kind of is self-sufficient to a certain degree, ideally something that doesn't use the graveyard, and it's not the easiest card for them for the Jund player to answer. So the Planeswalkers out of the sideboard here should do some heavy lifting. Don't know if it'll be enough, but it's improvement over the game one game plan.
Now, going to Blood Moon doesn't seem ideal in this spot, but that's exactly what Taylor's going to do. So perhaps this bottlenecks Allie's mana a little bit. As an example, seems like it'd be difficult to cast Liliana the Veil now.
Yes. And also, if you play the Saheeli this turn versus next turn doesn't make that much of a difference. You need to follow up with a spell anyway, so.
Blood Crypt will enter the battlefield untapped, of course, because of the Blood Moon. So that'll help Warfield cast the Tarmogoyf, and now it's an Inquisition of Kozilek that's going to take care of the Saheeli. So another timely discard spell there for Arctic Meebo. Tarmogoyf will get the sizing on that. I'm sure we'll get our Tarmo die out there as well. A Planeswalker entering the graveyard means the Tarmogoyf is getting pretty large, so it'll be a 5/6. And we're going to head back over to Pogue, who doesn't really have very much going on now.
I was going to say, I had my preference there, I think, would have been, my initial instinct is to say, just get rid of the Metamorphose because the Planeswalker has no value. Mm-hmm. I think I like this play, thinking about it a little bit more from Warfield, because that gets another card type into the graveyard for the Tarmogoyf. Now it's outside of Sinkhole range,
sure,
and very unlikely for the Phoenix player to be able to answer it. Going from 5 toughness to 6 toughness is a pretty serious inflection point. It now almost certainly requires 2 spells from Taylor to be able to answer this Tarmogoyf, and he has very little going on.
Now, right now, the hand here for Taylor Pogue is a Lightning Bolt and a Metamorphose. His hand has been shredded apart as Jund is known to do such a thing. Looks like we're going to see an Assassin's Trophy take care of the Blood Moon. This is going to unlock Warfield's mana and also grow the Tarmogoyf into a 6/7, given that an enchantment has been placed into the graveyard. So it's a tried and true Jund strategy here for sure, which is, shred your hand early, get some threats on the battlefield that are pretty large, or they at least interact sometimes, in the case of Scavenging Ooze, and try to get this game over with. A Lightning Bolt's going to take care of the Ooze, of course. Pogue is down to 7. He'll draw a card. He's found a copy of Arclight Phoenix. There are worse draws. I'm not sure that's the one that's going to save him. Here's a hardcast Phoenix. I don't think we might see an attack. I wasn't sure if we would, but we will. Here comes the Phoenix in for 3.
The last card in hand is Metamorphose. There is a hope that if your deck was stacked perfectly, you might be able to shoot the moon next turn.
Well, here's a Liliana the Veil.
And that just got a lot harder to do.
That's going to minus and take care of the Arclight Phoenix, and now Pogue is being attacked on 2 different angles. Tarmogoyf's going to knock Taylor down to 1. He'll draw a card. Looks like a copy of Faithless Looting. Well, that's a way to get back into it.
I think I would have preferred the plus there. Warfield knows the last card in hand is a Manamorphose. The only way that Pogue can come back in the spot is to absolutely shoot it with a string of cantrips. And if you get rid of the Manamorphose, it makes it so much less likely that that can ever happen. Now there's a chain of draws he can put together.
Yep. Now, do you want to start there with the Faithless Looting, or do you want to start by casting Manamorphose?
I would prefer Manamorphose. You're going to do it. You're going to do it regardless.
Yeah. So now here is Manamorphose.
Like drawing a land here is so bad, and you had some control over it by Manamorphosing first.
Here's the Serum Visions. Now there is a mana floating, so there is the ability to flash back Faithless Looting too. I don't want to forget about that. Maybe with the hope of finding another copy of Arclight Phoenix. Now, I do believe that Pogue picked up a copy of Finale of Promise. I'm not sure if he can cast it right now, but this is getting a little bit interesting. The bird's going to come on back, and it's going to hang back on defense.
Yeah, a good turn there for Pogue, but Warfield took that one. Again, the danger was the tippity top less than 1% of the time that he can chain together a huge turn with multiple copies of Arclight Phoenix. That didn't happen. So Warfield should be okay.
Warfield will draw a card. That's a Raging Ravine. A Raging Ravine is actually quite a good draw here. Phoenix is going to block. Now she's attacking with multiple different creatures slowly but surely, and that is going to do it. So Allison Warfield's going to win this game and match here over Taylor Pogue. 2-0. Jund is going to take care of Is It Phoenix, and for Allie Warfield, or as we like to call her, the Arctic Meebo on Twitter. It's a good start to the tournament, 1-0.
Yep, I think a very strong matchup, and you saw it all on display. The discard being able to take away